Hey guys, so today I have a very exciting video for you guys. It's something that I've been working on for a while, but it's taken me a while to put together, and that is my top 10 tips for two under two. And that's basically just having two children under the age of 2 years old. So if you guys are new to my channel or my videos, our daughter Sophie was 1.5, actually 2 days shy of 1.5 when our youngest daughter Remy was born. So we had two under two for 6 whole months, and I feel like in a lot of ways it was different than what I expected, but in a lot of ways it was kind of what I was expecting. So I just put these together for you guys. I hope that they're helpful, insightful, whatever it may be. I have them all written down on my phone, so I'm just going to kind of run through them. I'm going to do my best to like briefly explain, but not like over talk or anything. So to get started, number one was pick your battles. And that might be something that people are already doing with only parenting one child, but with Mark and I, that wasn't something we were already doing. Sometimes you just gotta let them rip the couch cushions off and jump on the couch or something like that, you know? It really is about your personal preference, but I will say picking your battles was something that I learned because I felt like everything was super important. However, keeping your mental health at a good level is also important. So not staying on top of every little single thing all the time really does help you out. Number two is spend as much one-on-one time as you can with each child. Now, when Mark was home, we really tried to make a conscious effort of making sure that one of us was always with one of the girls and really just soaking in all that time with them. And I will say for the first few months when he went back to work, it was a little bit more difficult, especially because Remy was sick. It was just difficult to manage all of that and also find specific time for each of them. However, I will say that we've gotten a lot better at it, and it's something that I found not only helped ourselves, but it also helped Sophie. It just helped everybody involved. So I do believe before Remy was ever born, we took Sophie out to a science museum, just spent the whole entire day with her, had a whole bunch of fun with her, and really just kind of soaked up our last little bit of our little family before it became a little bit bigger. And we tried to keep that up. Even with having a newborn, you know, my mom was willing to watch Remy sometimes, or even like at the zoo, we invited my mom and my stepdad along, and they primarily stuck by the strollers, stuck around Remy and pushed her around while we kind of walked with Sophie and we engaged with her a lot more. And it doesn't have to be outings. I know having another baby is really expensive, so even if it's stuff at home, you know, Mark used to just take Sophie to her room and play a game with her, or I would sit down and I would color with Sophie, just little things like that even, their kids really appreciate. Number three is something that took me a while to find out, and that is learning the signs that your oldest needs attention. Now, every kid will do this in a different way, but I do think it's important to watch for, because I feel like if you can see those signs coming, you can almost intervene and stop like a major outburst or something from happening. And I do feel like for the most part with Sophie, that has helped a lot. You can't stop every tantrum all the time, but I felt like it's helped curve the attitude that we had when her sister was newly here quite a bit. When it comes to Sophie, when Remy was younger, it took form in intentionally doing stuff she knew was bad. Maybe it was coloring on something she shouldn't be coloring on, it was smashing and trying to destroy one of her toys, or it was just her trying to backtalk or something like that. However, the older Remy got, the more it turned into picking on her sister. So if Sophie's in need of attention and she needs that one-on-one time, she'll start pushing her sister or maybe hitting her sister, and that is stuff that when we start seeing, we try to nip it in the butt right away. It helps prevent tantrums. It'll stop stressing you out so much because you're like, why the heck is my kid acting like this? Normally, 9 times out of 10, Sophie's problem is that she wants some one-on-one time. Sometimes that means going to the grocery store with her dad. Sometimes that means going outside and me and her just playing on the swing for a little bit. It doesn't always have to be an outing, like I said. It's just 10-15 minutes of solely giving your child that attention. And I understand that's not always feasible, but I do feel like it helps a lot. Number four is to use consistent phrases when you're talking about things to do with the new baby. Something I was most worried about with Sophie was how soft she was going to be with Remy, because Sophie loves hard. She loves giving hard hugs. She'll give you kisses until you can't breathe. That's just Sophie's nature, and I love that about her. I would never change that for the world. However, for a newborn, it can be a little risky. We would just continue to tell her to be soft. So if we ever felt like she was being too rough with Remy, even to this day, we still say, you need to be soft. And she has in turn now said that to her sister. Remy is now almost a year and a half old, so Remy is definitely getting into toddler mode, and now that they're kind of roughhousing with each other, Sophie will now tell Remy to be soft with her. So you can tell that it's definitely made an impact, and I felt like small, simple phrases that we said over and over again definitely made a difference. Now, there were some instances like maybe Remy was in her swing and Sophie was trying to like climb on top of her or something, where we felt like Sophie kind of needed to back off a little bit. However, we didn't want to be super negative about that, so we just used the phrase, give her some space. And we just said, give space a lot. That's something that she still understands to this day, and something she says to her sister even now. So that is a few things that helped a lot, especially when learning how to be with baby and how we act around baby, stuff like that. It's just easy for them to latch on and remember those simple phrases. Number 5 is letting the older sibling help when they can. Obviously, this one's not always doable as well, but we did try to let Sophie help as much as she could. When it came to diaper changes, I would ask her to grab me a diaper, maybe grab me the wipes, even maybe pull me out a wipe, give me the diaper rash cream. When it came to baths, I had her help me put the lotion on Remy, or maybe pick out her pajamas, just anything she could really feel like a part of. And if she couldn't be a part of it, like maybe if I was nursing Remy or if I was pumping for her, something like that, we had a baby doll where she could do that stuff with her baby. And when we were feeding purees to Remy, you know, that's not something that I was necessarily comfortable with her helping with. She would sit there and she would feed her baby doll. It was the cutest thing ever. And something like that, I feel like, is not only rewarding for the child, but it's so heartwarming to see as a parent, see how loving and hands-on your older child wants to be. And I feel like it just includes them in this new family dynamic, and it's something that Sophie really responded well to. Now, number 6 is something that I totally never thought of, but looking back, it's one of the biggest things that stands out to me, and that is, just because you've been parenting for the past X amount of years does not negate the fact that you're about to bring a newborn into the mix. I don't know why, but when I was pregnant with Remy, I just kind of felt like, oh, it's no big deal, like, we're just gonna have another baby. Yeah, exactly. You're gonna have another baby. So on top of that toddler who's throwing tantrums, trying to figure out their world, trying to figure out words to describe how they're feeling, all of that toddler stuff, you're also throwing in a newborn on top of that. So it's not just parenting one more kid, it's starting from scratch with one more kid on top of parenting the one you've already had. So to me, that was kind of like a big shock and realization. It might sound a little silly, maybe I was, but it was just something that I never really thought of, and it's something that kind of like took me back for a little bit. But just being prepared and knowing that there's going to be a lot of sleepless nights, and the days are going to seem long, they're going to be tiring, because, you know, when your newborn is going to be settled, your toddler is probably going to throw a tantrum because the mega blocks fell over. So there's something like that going to be going on. That's just going to be your new sense of chaos and crazy and normal, but you will adjust to it, you will get through it. But I did want to throw it in here so it didn't shell shock anybody else. Number 7 is something that I always tell people when they're curious about 2 kids under 2, and that is the fact that it will get easier when you're on a schedule, but don't rush that. There was a lot of times in the first 6 months that I was so overwhelmed, I didn't understand why things felt the way that they did, and I was wondering if it was always going to be this crazy, if it was always going to be this messy. And to an extent, it still kind of is. You know, when you have multiple children, that's just a whole nother level of crazy. That's just your life now. But I will say, when Remy got on a sleep schedule, when she got on a feeding schedule, when, you know, we were all getting situated on a nap schedule and bedtime and all that stuff, the more schedule we got in our routine, the easier it all became, the less chaotic and, you know, like circus-like our house felt. And that was amazing. However, I wouldn't rush into it, because I feel like having 2 kids under 2, bringing that home, trying to navigate all that, and right away trying to get everybody on a schedule, it just might be a little too overwhelming. I definitely didn't worry about it. I just kind of had the we will figure it out as we go kind of mentality. Also, Remy being sick didn't really allow for a schedule for the longest time. So we just kind of did what worked for us for a while. But I did want to say it will not always be as crazy as what it is in the beginning. Routine definitely does make a difference, but take your time getting there. There's no rush. Number 8 is something that I've never done before, but I definitely plan on doing it for our next baby, and that is making meals beforehand. And like I said, I intended to do that when I was pregnant with Sophie, and I never did it. I intended to do that when I was pregnant for Remy, and I never did it then either. I didn't really have a reason as to why I didn't do it. I think I just never got around to it. I didn't make it a priority. However, I would definitely hands down recommend that. You know, like I said, you pretty much always have something going on. And if you're recovering from a C-section, I mean, even if you're recovering from a vaginal birth, really the last thing you want to be doing is cooking a dinner. And it's just super simple to take things out of your freezer, pop them in the oven, maybe put them in the crock pot, and dinner is situated. It's really so simple that anybody who's old enough to work an oven could really do for you. So whether it's your significant other or it's an older child, you know, something like that, they could definitely help out there too. The freezer meals, I just think hands down are a great option. I think last time I maybe didn't do them because I was worried, because you do obviously have to spend an X amount of money to make that, get the materials beforehand and then freeze them. However, because I didn't do that and I didn't want to cook dinner, we spent an X amount of dollars on eating out all the time. So we spent that money anyways, but we spent it on, you know, not nearly as many meals as you would have if you did it at home. And it also wasn't as great of food as what you could make at home. So I would definitely recommend that because it'll be one less thing on your plate. And then number 9 is to make time for your relationship. This is something that Mark and I really took the time to agree upon before we even had Sophie, but it's something that we had to be even more intentional about when we had Remy. And it was something that we always agreed upon, that we wanted to always be Mark and Alia. We wanted to be fiancés because we were only engaged when we had Sophie. It was something that we always wanted to be husband and wife, along with being mom and dad, because mom and dad are such a big epic parts of your life that it can overshadow things, and a lot of times it can be your relationship. So we want to make sure that just like being a mom and dad is right here, it's important to us, we were also making the time to put our marriage and our relationship right there and making time for that. Now, is it easy with 2 kids under 2? Absolutely not. We didn't have the money to go out when we wanted to. We very rarely took date nights. However, we agreed upon a schedule to really set time aside for ourselves. And I can't really remember what the schedule was when Remy was first born. I want to say it was weeknights we spent together. However, with me taking my lactation courses and other stuff going on with myself, we've had to switch around our schedules a little bit. And now we do 2 nights on the weekend are really dedicated for ourselves. As soon as the kids go to bed, we do something together. We're spending that time as Mark and Alia. We're bonding. We're doing the stuff that we love. And we try to be very intentional about that. I feel like it can really help. Mark and I, just as a couple, we get along really well. We honestly never fought that much in our couple years before ever having kids. However, having kids, we parent completely different. There's things that we obviously don't agree on all the time. So I feel like kids can add a little bit of friction to the relationship. I don't know why I'm saying a little. They definitely do cause stress and friction, but at the end of the day, you have to remember that that's your teammate. They are in this arena with you. They are, you know, your mom and dad. You're right there in importance in your kids' lives, and you also have to make time, you know, to be together and to be those people who fell in love in the first place. So that is a huge thing. A lot of this stuff is all about just taking one less thing off of your plate, but I feel like not worrying about your relationship and having that be a place that feels good and it's not something you have to worry about, that's just a huge thing off of your plate. And the very last thing, number 10, I'm sure you could guess it by the last thing that I just said, is to take time for yourself. No matter if you're a mom, dad, caretaker, whoever it might be watching this video, it's important to take time for yourself. Of course, you are mom and dad first. I feel like that just comes with nature. That's what you do. Nobody second guesses that. However, it's okay to be selfish sometimes and take time for yourself. Take that trip to Target by yourself. Leave the kids with your significant other. Get a babysitter. You know, drop them off with grandpa and grandma. Go to a craft store. Go to Barnes and Noble. Sit at home and watch Netflix. I mean, there has literally been times where I had plans to go out and do something, whether it was running errands or stuff. And, you know, my grandma is always more than happy to watch the girls. She always complains she doesn't see them enough. So I dropped them off one time, and I remember thinking, I am so tired. I don't want to run my errands. I just want to go home, and I want to sit down, and I want to watch a show without being interrupted. You know what I did? I went home, and I watched How to Get Away with Murder with a cup of tea on my couch, with nobody talking through it, with nobody asking me to help them go to the potty, nothing. And it was so nice. It is really nice to just take that time for yourself, you know, whether it's enrolling in classes or whatever it might be. That just really makes you feel as an individual like you're important, you're doing stuff that's important to yourself. That's important. You don't want to lose yourself and everything that comes with being a parent, because just like I said, Mark and I didn't want to lose our relationship and being Mark and Alia. I don't want to lose Alia. That phrase that you can't go anywhere on a car that's empty is entirely true. You have to refill your cup sometimes. Taking care of your kids starts with taking care of yourself. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. I know that if someone had told me that when Remy was 3 weeks old, that taking care of your kids starts with taking care of yourself, I probably would have hit somebody. But it is true. I started running low. I started feeling like I would get out of bed in the morning and I would already feel drained. There was this really helpful checklist that I found on Pinterest that was like, why do you feel like you wake up already exhausted? And it was, are you eating when you're hungry? Are you sitting down when you're tired? Are you, you know, all these different things that just feel like kind of like common sense, but it's something that you put on the back burner as a parent. And I understand, because I still do it, that sometimes you will push those things aside if it means getting something done. Looking back on it all, I feel like I would have felt a little less burnt out over the whole thing if I had really just taken even 15-30 minutes a night for myself. So those are my top 10 tips. Like I said, I hope they were helpful. If you are an expecting parent of 2 under 2, good luck. You will get through this. Like I said, it'll take some time, it'll take some maneuvering, but the good news is that you guys have to figure it out, which means that you will, and you will get through it, trust me. Previously, I've already done a 2 under 2 must-haves video, so I will have that linked for you guys if you're interested. I will also have an Amazon link down below where you guys can check out all my just essential must-have everyday kind of stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching.